Hey guys, Rick Shaw here again. Kids had their nice little pizza party, and it's right now, it's about 3:30. You can see the sun's starting to get out of the front of our house. Won't be long now, that'll be cleared up. But a couple things I want to talk about here. One of them, if you guys can all say a prayer for my little sweetheart, Marife. I think the stress right now is overwhelming her. No, not with that. You need the carrot scraper. Get the carrot scraper. That's a cheese cutter. And it's just getting to her. Between the lockdown and the never-ending house build, it's not doing her well. I think we got some kind of a carnival or festival is going to be coming up soon, because there's been a lot of fireworks like the one you just heard. There's been a lot of that in the last couple of days, so I don't know what's going on with that. My wife never said anything about any holiday coming up, but she's kind of moping right now, so she has been cleaning up the clothes, and
square meters, I think
we're trying to get everything ready for if this move ever is going to happen. I'm not sure. But something I wanted to talk about, I did the one on the Element, and years ago I was wanting to, it's cheaper, it's always cheaper to build a bike, I always said, than it is to build a car up. And I had some buddies that had some hot rods, nitrous, running crazy machines. And so I wanted to build a street bike. And I got online back then. I had really good internet service through work, and when I was done, I'd get home, lived by myself, had that fantastic garage, and had some dirt bikes and stuff I was always working on. Neighbor was coming over, we were working on his and stuff, and I wanted to build a street machine. So I started looking online, and I came across this company called, I believe it was NHRS out of New England, and I started emailing back and forth with those guys, and I was looking at bikes, and here the bikes that they were building were Harley Davidsons. They weren't, for making quarter milers and land speed record holding bikes and stuff like that. So I got a hold of them and told them I wanted a quarter miler. I wanted just a shit and get, but streetable. I wanted my bike streetable. So we didn't get into the double overhead cam BMW motor that Harley makes, the street rod. I wound up getting a Dyna Fatbob. It had the double headlights on the front, but its name was the Freight Train. And I was going back and forth to them, and I bought their kit. And the thing about their kit was they wanted to really build it up. What's up?
Mommy told me to break my piggy bank now.
No. We're not breaking anybody's piggy bank till after we move. I'm going to do a video, okay? Love you, baby. So we wound up going with that with the Fatbob. In '96, they were saying, you don't need to bore this out. You don't got to cut the cases and do all that stuff. But one of the weak links that they talked about, and this was all on emails way before I ever bought the kit, was the crankshaft from the Harley Davidson is made in pieces. I don't know how they put it together. But one of the things in their kit was a one-piece forged crank. Now, I don't remember exactly what the crank on the Harley was. I'm thinking it was a 3/4 crank, something like that. Well, this company had an 1.25 inches, so I took the bike apart, and I had to send my cases out with the specs that they gave me in their little paperwork, and I had a company there in California bore that out so the crank would fit. So we put a heavy-duty one-piece crankshaft on this thing, and then I got rods. I got these super, I'm just telling you, from looking at the rods that Harley had, the piston rods, compared to these ones I got, it was night and day. These things were robust, to say the least. And then, of course, we had the titanium flat top pistons, and I had a cast iron jugs, to hold the boost. Now, this thing was streetable. When I just drove it back and forth to work and daily driver, I had a Thundermax computer system. I went with a Bassani scavenging exhaust. Now they didn't sell me that. NHRS didn't sell me that. They said this is what you should buy. So I bought that, and it was a scavenging exhaust. Not real loud. This thing was not obnoxious. It was a little bit rumbly, but you know, when you heard the thing idle, you just went. And it would idle at like 800 RPM. So it was, it was the potato, you know. And we had different coils, Pulsar plugs. The heads, we had some work done on the heads, but it wasn't to make the holes bigger. It was to lighten the train, and then beehive springs on it, just things to make it better. I believe they sent different push rods, so there would be better oil. And then, of course, we put an oil cooler on it also to help keep it down. Now, if I drove it on the street, it was I put the Pro Charger on it. I did all that myself. And my phone's coming on. And running on the street, it was 8 pounds of boost, and I had a laptop that was right in the bag. I had a bag on the back, and I could set it for 8 pounds of boost. And then we had a thing I had to change. If I was going to run it at the track, you would change it. I had to drain all the gas out and put this race gas in it, because I believe normally aspirated, if you cut the belt, it was 8-to-1 compression, real low. You could run this thing on frog juice. I mean, no, not a lot of power or anything, but it would run. But when that thing was at 20 pounds of boost, you had to run this race gas because the boost increased the compression. I had intercooler on it, plus aftercooler on it. Plus we had a shot of nitrous, which cools down. If you people don't understand what nitrous does, it cools the shot charge down. It really gets your intake temperatures low, so you can pump more fuel in. I had their injectors that they gave me. I was working at a college, and they had students engineering and stuff, and I had them engineer me a rear swing arm that was longer, and then we just moved the fender out a little bit. If you looked at it, nobody but a Harley guy would notice that it was extended. We extended that. I still had the same belt on, but we had a primary piece for the belt. That way I could put where connected in right at the swing arm, so as the back end actuated, you didn't have any problem with the belt tensioning and all that kind of crap. I kept the belt on it. I raised the back end up, I believe was 4 inches, and the front 6, so that it fit me better. I had the way the rear shocks, I had progressive shocks on the back. I had the front end done also. I had the rear shock where there were some bolts on there where I could slip this wheelie bar into it. And this thing needed it. The first time I took it to the track at 20 pounds of boost, I just about slid off the seat. I had to let off the gas, and I still ran a 12. I don't care what anyone says, that's fast. But I went ahead and I got a Harley seat that was like a big king and queen that they sold. Paid a big price for it, but I wanted to keep it as stock looking as possible. I had a really cool little smoked visor for the front. I had a ton of money into it. Did a lot of the work myself in the garage. Had a really nice lift. When it was all done, it looked great. I wish I had some pictures to show you, but it would run sub-9s. If you kicked it up 20 pounds of boost, the nitrous, when you fired it, I had the nitrous tied into the high beam switch. So as soon as I put on the high beam and the bottle was open, the nitrous was armed, and when you went to full throttle, then it told that nitrous to fire. And when that nitrous fired, that thing just unbelievable how scary. I had tires out of Japan. It was their drag tires. They still had like a tread thing in them. so that I wouldn't get in trouble. I wanted to, street legal. I had to be street legal, and it just was an amazing beast. One time I was going up that big hill out to the high desert, and I saw a bike coming up behind me real fast. I'm doing the speed limit. I'm just doing the speed limit, and kicked her down a couple gears. And when he got off on my right fender, I opened her up, and it picked the front wheel up. And but very stable bike. Harley. One thing about Harley is they balance better than any bike I've ever been on, even though they're heavy. And it just pulled this wheel stand, and when I kicked it up to the next gear, it just stayed there. And this thing just shit and get, and that guy was gone. I'm looking at him disappearing in my mirror. And when I got up to the top of the hill, I kind of got over in the right lane, and I slowed her down. I just kicked her into the high gear and let off the gas. And the guy pulled up next to me. It was a cop. He was on one of them Kawasaki Corsairs that they were starting to run. And I'm watching for white bikes, but it just didn't look like a cop bike. And he pulled me over, and I thought, oh, man, I'm in a lot of trouble now. But it wasn't trouble. He was like, oh, man, that's really cool. That's a really nice bike. That thing's got some power, huh? And he was just the coolest cop. So it wasn't any kind of trouble or anything, but it was a speedy bike. Even just at 8 pounds of boost without the nitrous, it would run in the 12s. And I don't care what anyone says, that's a super fast bike. But when you kicked up I'd get on the laptop, change that, and then I changed that little. Basically, we just turned the screw and plugged the. It was the only supercharger with like a wastegate that would operate. It had to have power to it. Had to have 12 volts of power, and it would keep it at 8 pounds of boost no matter where you were in the throttle. But when you were running 20 pounds of boost, you went to that little wastegate thing, and you took the Allen wrench and you turned it over, and then it would keep it at 20. It only had 8 and 20. And I had when I bought the bike, I paid $18,000 for it at the bike shop, and then with all the stuff I think I spent another $18,000 on it, and then little its and bits after that and stuff. But I changed out the headlights for a better headlight because going that fast. I did a trip one time, a nighttime ride, where I went out to Flagstaff, out to 40, and I cut up to Las Vegas, and then back to my place on a midnight run, you might call it. I was cruising along the highway doing 130, and I could hit spurts of 150. I kept the limiter on it because of the tires. 150's fast enough, but I had the brakes done. I had really good brakes on it. I changed all that out. I got rid of the stock wheels also, and I put a really good heavy-duty set of wheels on it. And of course, those wonderful tires that I had, and that thing just really shit and get. That was one fine machine. And then when I left California, I had been down to the track a few times, and guys were seeing the numbers this thing was running. I had one guy wanted to race me title for Hayabusa, and I'm looking at his back tire. It was pretty much done, and I'm like, I didn't want to take the guy's bike, and it was no sense to race those guys. I had a vanity plate that said bye bye. And it was the freight train. It was a beautiful bike. It was in flat black. The motor was aluminum. I didn't change that except the jugs. When they came, they're much darker, the cast iron. And the dang thing just was. It was really a special machine. And when I went to sell it, I was going to put it on Craigslist. And then a buddy of mine that we used to ride together, and he had a fast bike, and he just was in disbelief. He says, I know a guy will buy that right now. And so I went ahead and emailed the guy, and he knew the bike. He was at the track one day. We were doing a run, and he came back, and he says, what do you want for it? I says, I got like 36 grand into it. And it was 2 years old. I kept the AMSOIL in it. It had the oil cooler, and the oil cooler was It was a thermostatically controlled one. It bypassed the cooler if the oil was cold, and then as it warmed up, then that thermostat would open up. That was a really cool oil cooler. Plus, I had a fan on it that would come on. If I was done with the run, what we would do is as soon as I got done with the run, in order so I could make another run, because it would get hot, I could flip the fuel to 8-to-1 air fuel mixture, and on my back run from the quarter mile, that would cool this puppy right down. It would just, the temperature just would drop. I had really nice oil temperature gauges in the side. I had all the stuff it needed. And the guy told me when I was going to sell it, I said, I'm moving to the Philippines. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 35 grand for it right now. And he had cash in his pocket. And he came with the truck, and I says, yep, you can have it for 35 grand. And he took it for a ride. He came back with bugs in his teeth, grinning his head off. And he didn't even stop to see me. He already had the rack out, and he drove it right up on the back of his truck, strapped it in, him and his buddy, and gave me 35 grand. I signed the title, and that was the end of that fantastic machine. But you know, it was really nice to have something at least once in your life like that. That's, you know, it was always my dream to have that. And, you know, being Signal, I was able to afford it. I never went into debt for it. I did not borrow a penny to do it. And I didn't really lose that much. I did, you know, riding that dang thing, I used to get giddy. I would get so giddy driving that thing. It was just the most pleasurable machine I ever had. And at the same time, I had the Buell Ulysses, which to this day, out of all the motorcycles I've ever had, and I've had quite a few. I mean, I had name a super bike, I have had it. And I have to say, out of all the bikes, if I could only ever have one again, it would be that Buell Ulysses. That was the finest machine I ever had. I do believe it was the only machine I never really had to do anything to. I just got it and drove it. I never changed. I didn't really change anything. I just ran AMSOIL in it. I did do the Polestar plugs in it. The day I got it, I actually had that done right at the dealership. You know, because the computer learns. The computer they have in there, they say it learns. So I wanted to start out with that. And, you know, Polestar plugs, go to Project Farm on YouTube and look up. And they are somewhat better than any other plug. It's a plasma discharge with a capacitor, and being an electrician, I just thought that was cool. So I went with them. I run them in everything. I got them in my Honda here. I've had them in all my bikes. You can get them here. You just have to get them. I send them out to my buddy, and then he ships them to me, and that way I don't got to pay any kind of draconian tax here or anything like that. But like for the Honda, I went ahead and bought three sets of them. Now my Harley, when the fella bought it, you know, before he even came, I went ahead and pulled them and looked, and they were just burnt so beautiful and clean, I didn't even give them the spares. I just kept them. I have them here. I still have a spare set that I had for the Sportster. I had bought, when I first was getting into Harley, I was always Jap bike guy. You know, Harleys were not dependable, and then they came out with the fuel injection in 2007, and I said, yeah, I'm going to give a Harley a try. And they were wanting me to buy this big bagger and all that. No, I'm going to give me the 883. And I was looking at the 1200 too, but then when the 1200 was 12,000 and the 883 was 8,200, and I thought, I'm just going to go with that little one. I just need a work mule. And the guy said, hey, you know, we can put the 1200 jugs on this. And it was $1,500 right at the dealership, and no problem with the warranty or nothing. So I went ahead and put that on there. And I had a buddy that had it was a 1350 Kawasaki. And he was a light-to-light guy. He wanted to always run that bike. And you know something? That stupid little, you know, wannabe Sportster that I had, the girls' bike, everybody teased me because they said, you're driving a girls' bike. It would run that thing every light. Every single time we'd get into a little light-to-light thing, I was gone. I was already gone. It just really hooked the ground up. Now that one I wound up putting progressive shocks on the back. I raised the back end up on that also. Still stock swing arm, but I raised it up a few inches in the back, and then the front, I extended the front on that one 4 inches. I made my own. I had a lathe and milling machine and all that kind of stuff in my garage, so I made myself a new set of clamps that gave it a little more rake, because when I first got it, it was a tank slapper. That thing, if I got on the highway and really hit the gas on that thing, as soon as I would let off the gas, it would go into this monstrous, horrible tank slapper. That bike should have never been sold. I had a Suzuki that did that, a Suzuki 1100 that was the same way. The rake was too short, so what I did is I built myself a new set of clamps with much more of an angle, gave me some more of that rake and trails, that crap they talk about. I didn't really look at the book. I just said, I'm going to kick this thing out, and then I raised it up 4 inches to keep the bike level. And we basically set it there with no springs in it, and I told the guy I want it this high, and it was a spring guy that did it for me. He gave me a complete new front end. I don't remember what bike he got it off of, but I went to a bigger front end on that bike. And once I did that, there was no more of that tank slapping, baloney that it had. But there's some of the machines I had. I just thought maybe you guys will find it interesting, maybe you won't, but I sure did love it. I'll be having another bike here real soon. I don't know for sure if I'm going to do one of those tricycle on it. I saw a real nice tricycle over here. I took some pictures of it. It was on a few videos back that I liked, real high up. So if we go to Mindoro, we can get through the pretty tough areas, kind of four-wheeling it. And I'm also thinking of doing, I want to do a wheel, the same wheel that's on the back of the bike now with the drum brake in it, and just have a cable running over there, so I got an extra brake over there. I never had too much of a problem stopping, but this Yamaha YTX, a lot of the videos on it, they all say the brakes are lacking. So if I got a tricycle on it, or I'm going to pull, that little jeepney thing I'm looking at down in, well, Mike told me how to pronounce it, but I say Sirago. Okay, Mike, buddy. But I think I pronounced it wrong. That's my accent. I'm going to want better brakes. So if I do the tricycle, I'm going to have them put the same wheel on. I'll just go right to Yamaha and say, I want that. Order me that wheel. And that way I can run a cable, and I could have braking on that also. And I've had tricycles before. I had it was a CRF 650L, and I bought a tricycle out of offline, and it had braking on that side, and that was something. It took me. Everything worked out great. I followed the instructions, and I towed in the wheel. It had adjustments right on the wheel where I could tow it in, and I got the thing tracking perfect. It was just tracking perfect. But when you hit the brake, that was also that one had disc on it, disc in the back. I got the same wheel from the CRF. I bought a used one. I think it was off a 200cc XR, but it was also the disc. And when I put that on there, boy, first time I hit the brakes, it got scary because I didn't have it adjusted. So I had to keep playing around. I had to buy a valving system, not to cut the valving down on that side. I actually had to cut the valving down on the bike side in order for it to track straight. And once I got that set, that was a good one. But the sidecars they do, hi Itchy, how you doing, buddy? The sidecars they do in the States, they put them up forward a little bit by a few inches. I like it better here on the tricycles here. They put them exactly opposite the back axle, so you get the wonderful turning radius. And when you're flying on the highway, no trouble. I had my TMX 150. I could get that thing out on the flat doing 70 kilometers per hour. And it would just track perfectly. I'd put my family in it. We were never worried. We took a lot of trips on it. We went to Mindoro a couple of times, took it on the boat, drove all the way from one end of Mindoro all the way down south to the southern tip and back up the other side. And it was just a great tricycle, and I could sit in it. The tricycles here I can't drive in because they're too small. I got to sit behind the driver. So, hi, handsome. That's your buddy, huh? Itchy's over to see us again. This dog right here, we kind of fell in love with Itchy. We don't know his name. We just named him Itchy because he's always scratching. The poor thing's got bugs. I got some Advantage coming. I'm going to put it on. See, he's scratching now. I'm going to put some Advantage on him and help him out. And right before we leave, I'm thinking of asking the people who, well, they're owners of him, but they don't. He just runs around all the time. I'm going to ask him if we can have him because we really fell in love with him. He, whenever we go for a walk, he comes with us. He follows us around, and if there's other dogs around, he gets in between us and them, and he'll growl at them. He's the king of the roost around here. Bad thing is, a lot of the puppies are his, but. A lot of times if I'm sitting out here, he's always with us. He just hangs with us, and I hope the lady says sure, take him with you, because we really fell in love with him. He's a beautiful dog, and we get him over the new house. I was thinking, it wouldn't be good keeping him in the yard or anything, but we'll take him for walks all the time. I mean, we're always walking. The kids and I, we're out all the time. I'm hoping my wife will start wanting to walk with us or ride bikes. I'm going to get a pedal bike as soon as we move. And the kids got bikes already. They haven't been driving them much. My son Matty, a really bad thing that happened here to me. If any of you Filipinos know of a place I can get a 16-inch tube, the inner tube on his bike, the rim cut a hole in the valve, in the bottom of the valve. And I tried taping it and patching it, and it just won't work. It won't hold air. And I can't find a 16-inch inner tube here. They sell these kids bikes and they don't sell any parts for them. So, we might get them another one, maybe a 20-inch, because you can find 20-inch tubes anywhere, but the 16-inch tubes, I'm thinking of taking a 20-inch tube and just poking it in there. Maybe he'll get a flat spot on it, I don't know, but I got to do something to get his bike up and rolling again. Probably going to do that here in the next day or so. Get him to help me. He's my little, Matty's my little helper. Anytime I'm doing something, he hands me the tools. He learns all the tools, and I hope down the road here, if we were talking about doing other things for money. One of the things I would love to do, and I've seen some guys do it here already. I had a buddy at work that took his bike in and had it redone by this shop down there, and they customized this 250 bike of his. Watch out, car! And they did a fantastic job. They made this really cool bobber-looking bike. It's only a 150cc, but hey, this is what they do it with here. If that's all they had in the States, people would be customizing their bikes too. And I was thinking that would be something to do, to start customizing bikes. It's always been a love of mine. I've always tinkered with the bikes ever since I was a young guy because it was cheaper. I started out, the first bike I had was a Husqvarna 400 that I just ran the piss out of, and then I had a two-cylinder Honda 350, and then a little bit later I had a 350 Honda four-cylinder. It was close to the same year, and then I traded that to a guy for a 400, a little bit of cash, and I got a 400 off him. It was a four-cylinder, and that's what I started out riding. And of course the dirt bikes. I had dirt bikes on there. And then one of the coolest bikes I ever bought, somebody customized it, because this was, I don't believe it was stock, but it looked stock. It had all the stock stuff, and it was called a Yamaha 650 ST for street and trail. But it had the two-cylinder 650 motor on it. Those things are just bulletproof. I think you could run them out without oil for 25 years, and they still keep running. They're just a overbuilt bulletproof motor. And
but let's fight.
Okay. Okay, you fight them both. And that dang thing, that had a really big suspension travel for the day. And I used to take that thing through the woods and fly over logs and all that. But one of the things before I came here that I wanted to get, and you guys should look this up, was the Christini. I actually went out to that place, and they allowed me to drive it through these technical woods trails, and I was like, man, There's the machine. You know, I would love to have that here. I would probably get back into off-road. I just don't want to fall down because I'm not as young as I used to be. But it's really a lot of trouble to get stuff like that into this country with their import taxes and all the stuff they pull on you here. It's a shame, but it's where I live, so there's not much. And you can see my son, the sun over there is going away. What you doing there back there, mister? I see you. Who's that?
You're so out.
Rick, so out. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to let you go. It's getting kind of long, guys. Don't forget to pray for each other. And this is Biker Bob saying good day.